Okay, in this video we're going to generate our own ordered pairs. In the first part, we've been given one coordinate and our job is to find the other. So when you have -2 and then a blank here, basically our job is to find y given that x equals 2. So I'm going to plug plug x into the equation, so -2 plus y equals -4, and then solve for y. So I have -6 plus y equals -4. I'm going to add 6 to each side, and so I get y equals 2. So that first order pair is -2, 2. Now I've got in the second order pair, same thing. I am given an x and I need to find the y that corresponds to it. So I go into the original equation, I put a -1 in for x, and I solve for y. So I have -3 plus y equals -4. I add 3 to each side. I get y equals -1. And so I have a second ordered pair. That would be -1, -1. Now in the last one, they've given me a y, and so it's my job to find x. So I'll leave x in the equation, and that's going to be plus -4 equals -4. I'm going to add 4 to each side. So 3x equals 0. And then I'm going to divide each side by 3. And I get x is equal to 0. So my last ordered pair is going to be 0, -4. All right, so if you want, if you already know how to generate ordered pairs and you want to skip the practice problem, that's fine. If you feel like you need some more practice, we've got an equation here, y equals 5x minus 3, and I've given you 3 x coordinates, and your job is to find the y coordinates. So if you want to practice, you can pause the video and then try it yourself, and then start the video up again to see your answers. Otherwise, I'm just going to show you the answers. All right, so the 3 ordered pairs are, when you plug in a 0 in for x, you're going to get -3. When you plug in a 1 in for x, you're going to get 2. When you plug in a 2 in, you're going to get 7. All right, so now that you've practiced plotting points and you've practiced generating points, what we want to do now is we want to put it all together and we want to graph. And so we've got a couple of examples here. I'm going to graph a linear equation. Now this is the standard form of a linear equation. When you are plotting points, it is recommended for this method that you actually solve this equation for y. And so this goes back to the solving for a formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this equation for y by subtracting 5x from each side. Got -4y equals -5x plus 16. Now here's we're going to do this a little bit differently. I have to divide both sides by -4. We're not even going to bother writing this as one fraction. We're going to write this as 2 separate fractions by dividing by -4 right away, each term. So I'm going to divide that by -4, and I'm going to divide that by -4. Remember, I want to get this in the form of y equals, and this is going to be 5/4 x minus 4. Now we're going to make a table of values, and we're actually going to choose our own x values and find our own y values. Now you're allowed to pick any x values you want. There's an infinite number of them, and now you could choose 0, 1, and 2. Remember, there's an infinite number of solutions. As long as you feed this equation an x value, it will give you a y value. The problem is when you have a coefficient of x that is a fraction, you want to be strategic about what values you choose for x. Now I always choose 0 just because it's very easy to work with. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in, I have 5/4 times 0 minus 4. When you simplify that, you get -4 because 5/4 times 0 is 0. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating ordered pairs, but I'm just listing them in a table. Okay? The next value I'm going to pick, now I could pick 1, but then I have 5/4, which is a fraction. And I'd end up having to, find a common denominator and combine those. So if it's possible to choose an x value that will cancel out that 4 to make the arithmetic easier, I want to do that. So I'm going to choose multiples of 4. Again, you only have to choose multiples when you have a denominator that's not 1. I'm going to choose 4, and I'm going to choose 8 for my x coordinates. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to plug those values in. So 5/4 times 4 minus 4. The 4's will cancel, and I get 5 minus 4 equals 1. So there's my second ordered pair. Let's slide this up a little. And then I'm going to do 5/4 times 8 minus 4. 4 goes into itself once, goes in here twice. So you get 10 minus 4, which is 6. Now, I only need 2 points to determine a line, but we generally pick a third point just basically as a check to make sure we've done our work right. So I'm going to go ahead and plot these 3 ordered pairs. I've got 0 down 4. I've got over 4 and up 1. And then I have over 8 and up 6. And now you can see that those fall in a nice straight line. Here is where I would like you to use a straight edge. Use a ruler or take a piece of paper and use it, and draw along it. Now I'm using my computer and it doesn't work very well, so I am going to hand sketch this the best I can. It's a little messy on the computer, and I apologize for that, but I'm limited here. It's much easier on a piece of paper. And so I have a linear equation that I've graphed. And now I've only used 3 points to graph this, but every point that falls on this line is actually a solution to the equation. All right, so why don't you pause the video? And again, you can choose any values you want for your x values, right? Like in this last problem up here, we chose values of 0, 1, and 2. Even though I didn't ask you to graph those, you could choose 0, 1, and 2 every time. Here, because we have another fraction, you're going to want to use multiples of the denominator. And so I'm going to have you pause the video, give this one a try, see how you do, and then check back. Turn the video back on and check your answer. Okay, so I'm going to make my table. And so I'm going to choose 0 for an x coordinate. I'm going to choose 3 for an x coordinate because my denominator is 3. And I'm going to choose 6. I'm choosing multiples of 3 because I have a fraction. Again, if I don't have a fraction, just use 0, 1, and 2. So I get y equals, we're going to get 2/3 times 0 minus 4, which is -4. The next one will be 2/3 times 3 minus 4. The 3's cancel and you get 2 minus 4, which is -2. And then 2/3 times 6 minus 4. 3 goes in here once, goes in there twice. 4 minus 4 is 0. And so I have 3 ordered pairs, and I'm going to graph them. So I start here. This is my x-axis. This is my y-axis. I get 0 down 4. I'm going to go over 3 and down 2. And then I'm going to go over 6, and I don't go up at all or down because my y coordinate is 0. Again, use a straight edge. I can't use one on my computer. It just doesn't work for me, so my lines are not going to be that straight. Yours should look better than that. Okay. All right, and then the last problem here, I'm going to save for when we get back to school. If you want to try and graph it, you can. I've got 2 ordered pairs filled out for you, and then the last 3 you need to fill in, and then you plot them. This is not that clear, so again, if you want to skip this one, you may. And this should give you enough to get through the MyMathLab homework. Make sure when you're doing the MyMathLab that you use the help buttons. I also included a video on how to use the graphing feature in MyMathLab. Right, what I want you to do is graph your graph your lines on paper first. And I posted some graph paper in Blackboard as well. I want you to graph them on paper first and then transfer your answers to MyMathLab.